She took off her heels, sighed with a mixture of spite and smugness, and dropped the bomb without anesthesia, with the coldness of someone commenting on the weather. I slept with my boss, and it was incredible. So what? The question hung in the vitiated air of the living room. A venomous challenge that paralyzed me more than the confession itself. Trevor. No tears or apologies, nor that guilty drama one expects in movies. Laura poured herself a glass of white wine with steady hands, looking at me over the rim of the glass with superiority that froze my blood. He does have vision, Sergio. Alvaro understands my ambition. Not like you who spend your life obsessed with mops and cleaning contracts, she said with disdain, deliberately ignoring that those mops paid a mortgage on our penthouse in Pozuelo, the private bilingual school of Lucia, and the BMW X5, latest model that she drove. She spoke to me of dinners at the Botafumeiro and beach walks as if I were a stranger to whom she tells her vacations, not the husband she had just betrayed. At that moment, I felt as if a building collapsed inside my chest, demolishing 15 years of history in seconds. However, on the outside, my face remained stony, an absolute calm mask that I learned to use negotiating with difficult clients. I didn't give her the pleasure of seeing me scream. I simply nodded, turned around, and went to the kitchen, feeling how my silence disconcerted her more than any insult. That night the silence in the house was dense, almost suffocating. Laura fell asleep in the guest room, probably believing that her brutal honesty had settled the matter, or that I, the simple Sergio, would accept my place as a submissive provider. But I couldn't sleep. Doubt gnawed at me. Was it really a one-night slip in Barcelona, or was there more? I waited until 3 a.m. with my heart pounding against my ribs. I slipped into her office and turned on her laptop. I knew her arrogance was her weakness. She never changed passwords because she thought I was too basic to understand clouds and synchronizations. I typed Lucia 2013, our daughter's birth date, and accessed her iCloud. What I found was not a one-night mistake. It was a parallel life. The photo folder loaded slowly, revealing the magnitude of her lie. They weren't just photos from the convention at the Arts Hotel. There were images from months ago, work lunches that were romantic dates, weekend getaways that she had disguised as seminars, and selfies in beds of hotels I didn't recognize. In one photo taken in the reflection of a bathroom mirror, the silhouette of a man showering could be seen while she smiled at the camera with complicity she never had with me. Alvaro. My stomach churned when I saw the digital receipts for dinners that cost more than one of my employees earned in a month. I understood then that Sergio's small cleaning business was not only despised, but was indirectly financing a luxury life she demanded to impress her lover. It wasn't a slip, it was a controlled demolition of our marriage brick by brick, while I paid the bill. The next morning, the atmosphere in the kitchen was toxic. Lucia, my 12-year-old daughter, came in dragging her feet with that sharp intuition children have when their parents whirl cracks. She looked at both of us, Laura pretending to read emails on her phone with an absent air, and me preparing toast with mechanical rigidity. "Are you going to get divorced?" Lucia asked suddenly with a trembling but direct voice. Laura rolled her eyes, annoyed by the interruption of her personal drama. But I crouched down to my daughter's height, stroked her hair, holding back the urge to break into 1,000 pieces right there, no matter what. "Mom and I love you so much, Lucia. That will never change," I promised, looking her in the eyes. But when I raised my gaze and crossed it with Laura's, I knew with icy certainty that my marriage was dead and buried. And on its grave, I wasn't going to put flowers. I was going to put justice. The days passed with suffocating normalcy. Laura kept coming home with that smugness of someone who believes herself untouchable, while I became a shadow in my own life. I called Javier, my trusted lawyer since I started the company, and asked for absolute discretion. "I need you to prepare the divorce. But don't make a move yet," I told him. I decided to watch. One afternoon, I parked my car 2 streets from Alvaro's office and waited. They came out together, but not with the hurry of 2 furtive lovers, but with the calm of an established couple. They lunched on the terrace of an expensive restaurant in Serrano, and there I saw it, a subtle but devastating gesture. Laura brought her hand to her belly with protective instinct, while rejecting a glass of wine that the waiter offered her. Alvaro smiled and covered her hand with his. The world stopped. It wasn't just an affair. They were building a future, and they were doing it while she slept under my roof, expecting me, the mediocre Sergio, to raise another man's child. The confirmation came 2 days later. I followed them to the University Hospital Choiryn, Salud in Pozuelo, a place we knew well because Lucia was born there. Seeing them come out, her with a large envelope that unmistakably contained an ultrasound in him with that stupid first-time father smile, was a final blow. It all fit. The morning nausea she attributed to stress, her sudden rejection of alcohol, the fatigue. Laura was pregnant by Alvaro and planned to make me believe the child was mine. Worse still, hide it until it was too late. Javier, upon hearing my suspicions, was blunt. If the child is born within the marriage, Spanish law presumes it is yours. According to Article 116 of the Civil Code, if she hides it from you, knowing it's not yours, she could be committing paternity fraud, although proving intent to claim moral damages is complex. We need to document everything before she tries an illegal play. That night, I turned my pain into bureaucracy. I sat in my office with a USB drive and dumped everything to convention photos, records of her clinic visits, hotel bills proving the conception dates, and a voice recording I had made with my phone days earlier, where she told a friend on the phone, "Sergio is too busy with his little cleaning business. To suspect anything, it's pathetic." I put the USB in a yellow envelope along with the divorce papers Javier had drafted and a handwritten note. "You always said I didn't pay attention to you." I paid attention to everything. I left the envelope in the center of the kitchen table, next to her designer coffee maker, grabbed my suitcase, and went to the Eurostar's Madrid Tower. I wasn't going to sleep one more minute with my enemy. The next morning, my phone exploded. 40 missed calls from Laura. When I finally answered, her voice was pure panic, a mix of hyperventilation and fake crying. "Sergio, where are you? We can talk. The pregnancy was a mistake. I'll fix it." She stammered, trying to use that victim tone that used to work on her. I cut her off. "There's nothing to fix, Laura. I know it's Alvaro's. I know the dates. I know everything." She tried to promise she'd leave Alvaro, that we'd be a family again, but I only heard the echo of her so what resounding in my head. "You said he understood your ambition. Now let him understand it." I replied and hung up. Hours later, Alvaro, with the arrogance of someone who believes money fixes everything, showed up at my office. He offered me 50,000 euros for a quiet divorce to avoid scandals. I stood up, opened the door, and threw him out with a coldness that left him trembling. "Keep your money. You'll need it for the lawyers," I warned him. Alvaro's fall was quick and brutal. He tried to pressure me by calling my business partners to defame me, but he underestimated my reputation. In the services sector, loyalty is everything. My partners warned me of his calls, and, indignant, spread the word. In a matter of days, the rumor that an executive was trying to bribe the husband of his pregnant employee spread like wildfire. His company, fearful of a public relations scandal and harassment, launched an internal investigation and fired him summarily for violating the code of ethics. To top it off, his own wife found out, asked him for a divorce, and requested immediate freezing of his accounts. Laura called me days later desperate, screaming that I was a monster for ruining their lives. "I haven't ruined anything, Laura," I told her calmly before hanging up. "I just turned on the light. What was in the darkness you put there?" Laura's third attack was not emotional, but financial and criminal. A Tuesday morning, Javier summoned me urgently to his office. "Sergio, Laura's lawyers filed motion. They accuse you of hiding assets in offshore accounts in Panama and Belize to reduce the marital estate." He blurted out, without preamble, throwing copies of bank transfers worth 200,000 euros on the table. My signature appeared at the bottom of each document, a scribble I instantly recognized as an almost perfect imitation of mine. I felt a cold sweat. "I didn't sign this, Javier. I've never taken money out of the company," I protested, slamming the table. Javier, with that sharp calm I value so much, nodded. "I know, and we're going to prove it with something Laura, in her analog arrogance, overlooked." Laura had used her old access to the company intranet to obtain the forms and my tax data, forging my handwritten signature, with a pen and scanning it. What she didn't know is that for 2 years my company used an advanced biometric signature system for any operation over 10,000 euros. This system not only captures the image of the stroke, but records the pressure, speed, and acceleration of the stylus at the moment of signing, creating a unique and unfalsifiable biometric profile linked to the signer according to the EIDS regulation. Her documents are flat scans of a signature drawn on paper. They lack the biometric metadata that the bank requires and archives for these operations. Javier explained, "It's a crude forgery. We hired a computer forensic handwriting expert who certified the absence of biometric data in the files presented by Laura and the discrepancy in the pressure of the original stroke on paper." With that report, Javier not only dismantled her accusation, but counterattacked. We filed a complaint for procedural fraud and documentary forgery. Laura's lawyer, upon seeing the expert report and understanding that her client had made her complicit in a serious crime, resigned from the case that same afternoon, citing irreparable loss of trust. At home, the tension seeped through the walls. Lucia, caught in the crossfire. One day she came home from school with red eyes. "Mom says you're bad, that you want to leave us without money and that the police are going to take you," she confessed, trembling. I knelt in front of her, swallowing my rage. "Lucia, Mom is scared because she did things that aren't right. In this house and in life, fear never justifies breaking the law. The truth is like mathematics. In the end, the numbers have to add up. I didn't want to poison her against her mother, but I couldn't let her live in a lie either." 2 days later, the call came from choir in Salud University Hospital. Laura had fainted on the street. When we arrived at the ER with Lucia, who insisted on coming, we found Laura in a bed, pale and with IVs in her arm, crying inconsolably. "Sergio," she whispered with a weak voice when she saw me bringing her hand to her belly. Dr. Gomez, a serious and direct man, took me aside. "Clinically, both she and the fetus are stable. No preeclampsia or threat of miscarriage. It's an acute anxiety episode, probably from financial or legal stress," he explained in a low voice. "But she insists she has pains and wants to stay admitted." I entered the room. Laura asked Lucia to wait outside for a moment. As soon as the door closed, her fragility evaporated slightly, replaced by calculating desperation. "Adopt the baby, Sergio," she blurted out suddenly. "We can say it was a crisis and we got back together. Lucia wants us to be together. If you report me for fraud, who will take care of her if I go to jail? Do it for your daughter." Using Lucia as a human shield was the drop that filled the glass. "I'm not going to adopt your lover's child, Laura, and I'm not going to stop the divorce. You decided to play with the law. Now the law plays with you." I left the room trembling with indignation. Laura, seeing her emotional manipulation had failed, changed tactics with the speed of a cornered viper. Before we reached the parking lot, my phone vibrated with a notification from Javier. Laura had hired a new lawyer, one known for being aggressive and unscrupulous, and had just requested emergency measures under Article 158 of the Civil Code. They demanded emergency custody of Lucia and my expulsion from the home, alleging that I exercised psychological abuse and economic violence that endanger her pregnancy and our daughter's mental health. The war had stopped being civilized. 6 months after the night of the so, what the Fifth First Instance Court of Pozuelo dictated the end of our story. Laura arrived at the final hearing before Judge Herrera with an 8-month pregnancy, very visible, and a gaunt face, far from the haughty woman who drank wine in our kitchen. There was no trace of Alvaro. He had fled to Malaga after his firing and divorce, leaving Laura alone facing the legal abyss she herself had created. Her new lawyer, a man assigned by the court after all previous ones resigned, tried to play the compassion card. "Your Honor, my client is pregnant, unemployed, and alone. We asked for clemency and a minimum compensatory pension to subsist." He argued with little conviction. Then Javier, my lawyer, stood up and with the precision of a surgeon dismantled every plea. He presented a paternity report confirming the baby wasn't mine, the evidence of fraud attempt with forged signatures, and most devastatingly, our marriage settlement agreement signed before a notary years ago. "Your Honor," Javier said, "the 5th clause of this agreement clearly stipulates a loss of economic compensatory rights in case of proven infidelity that derives from marital cohabitation with a third party, as upheld by Article 101 of the Civil Code. The lady not only violated this pact, but attempted to commit a crime to hide it. Judge Herrera listened in silence, reviewing the documents with severe expression. When Laura tried to speak, to say she only sought to be happy, the judge cut her off. Happiness is not built on fraud, ma'am. Your decisions were conscious and repeated. The ruling was merciless. Judge Herrera granted me exclusive custody of Lucia, arguing that Laura's attempt to manipulate the girl and her current instability pose a risk to the minor's well-being. He granted me the use and enjoyment of the family home and all marital assets as compensation for the attempted procedural fraud. Laura was left without pension, without house, and with considerable fine in the courthouse hallway defeated. She grabbed my arm. Please, Sergio, don't speak ill of me to Lucia. It's the only thing I have left. She begged, crying for real for the first time. I looked at her, and despite everything felt hate, only immense pity. I don't need to speak ill of you, Laura. The truth is enough. I won't lie about who you are, but I won't defame you either. You did that to yourself, Tess. Time put everything in its place. Laura gave birth to a boy whom Alvaro never recognized. She lives in a small rental apartment on the outskirts, working part-time in a store, tired and prematurely aged by the burden of raising a baby alone without resources. Lucia, on the other hand, flourished without the constant tension at home. Her grades improved, and she excelled in the violin conservatory. My small cleaning business expanded to 3 more cities. It turns out that integrity and calm under pressure are values that big clients appreciate. Lucia sees her mother 2 weekends a month, and although she comes back sad seeing her like that, she has learned to differentiate love from responsibility. A year later, while we dined calmly on the terrace of our penthouse, Lucia looked at me and said something that closed my wounds definitively. Dad, I'm lucky. Other fathers would have screamed or gotten revenge by doing harm. You just told the truth and protected us. I smiled, serving her a glass of water. I understood that although I lost a woman I thought I loved, I gained something much more valuable, my daughter's absolute respect. Laura taught me that ambition, without scruples, leaves you empty. But Lucia taught me that the truth, although it hurts at first, is the only thing that allows you to sleep in peace every night.